This is Stuff You Like, and before we talk about Jesus Bro, we need to talk about Pureflix, and I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and Old Fashioned. You're so excited. I can tell. The topic of the next video will be the patron-requested Jesus Bro, which is a spoof of Pureflix movies made by Brad Jones, the cinema snob. You might have heard of him. So if you want to be notified when the next video goes up, subscribe button is down there. Right, but for Jesus Bro to make sense for those of you fortunate enough never to have heard of Pureflix, we're gonna need to do some explaining. Pureflix is a producer of family-friendly and Christian entertainment based in Arizona. They do everything from films about Samson to Christian Mingle the movie, which is still better than How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Fight me. They are also responsible for Old Fashioned, voted Christian Movie of the Year 2015 by Focus on the Family. Because apparently being inexplicable and creepy makes one wildly popular. Though given the mainstream movies which are ditto and also wildly popular, I suppose I can't hoik my judgy pants too hard. So to give you an insight into the Pureflix attitude to, well, everything, we're gonna need some cultural background. I'm not part of the US evangelical Christian subculture, although I am a Christian, but there is a part of it that I know a little bit more than most about. And that is the enduring cultural influence of seminal Christian dating work I Kissed Dating Goodbye and its follow-up, Boy Meets Girl, Say Hello to Courtship. Old Fashioned is a romance in which the main male character used to be a horrible woman-exploiting softcore porn producer? Who's now an antique shop owning, supposedly women-respecting Christian. He rents out the apartment above his shop to the main female character, and over the course of the movie they fall in love. The old-fashioned way. By which I mean he refuses to be in a building alone with a woman he's not married to. Also, there are workbooks. See, I don't know if you know where this movie is getting its weird ideas from, but I do. Billy Graham, slightly. But mostly Josh Harris. I Kissed Dating Goodbye was a phenomenon in US Christian circles. It was published in 1997 and the author was 21-year-old Joshua Harris, who didn't really feel comfortable with the way he had been conducting dating in his teenage years. He wanted to figure out how to spend his time as a single person constructively, and he also wanted to, you know, find a woman that he would like to spend the rest of his life with. And marry. And he didn't think that dating, as he saw it practiced, was a particularly good or efficient or, well, godly way to do it. Which is fair enough, I guess, and it wasn't the worst book ever or anything, but it was taken up very enthusiastically by some churches to give to the youth as the one true way of doing the dating, except it's not dating anymore, it's courtship. Again, Josh Harris was 21 years old when he wrote this book. It contains some weird stuff, and it contains some ideas which were pretty sensible, but a lot of it was just common sense. As in, a lot of it was just the way I saw my 20-something Christian friends conducting relationships generally. This whole movie is very much in the vein of I Kissed Dating Goodbye, which doesn't necessarily advocate that you are never alone in a room with someone that you might like to smush faces with, but might ask you to consider leaving the door open or something. I Kissed Dating Goodbye also advocates, and mercifully that is not present in the movie, that you ask a girl's dad before you court her. That last one is weird to a mainstream audience. Heck, it's even weird to a mainstream Christian audience, but to the subculture for whom these movies are made, it's, you know, maybe a little unusual, but nothing really out of the ordinary. As a British Christian who read this book in her early 20s, because we had a copy in the chaplaincy library, it was weird. In fact, the whole book was culturally weird to the point that I used to read out the particularly hilarious parts to anyone within earshot. Now, it's been a really long time since I read either book, but I'm pretty sure the red, amber, green thing showed up in the sequel book. It was more about the sort of things that you were or weren't willing to do before you got married with someone that you might be dating / courting. Like holding hands, green, snogging, amber, having sex, red. You might be wondering what on earth this has to do with Jesus Bro, but bear with me. The point of this seeming digression is that I Kissed Dating Goodbye was, and in some ways continues to be, a huge part of the cultural landscape of the people at whom this film is aimed. So while the books aren't referenced directly, there are a few things in there which will half remind an audience who half remembers the books, or at least half remembers hearing something about the books, and promote a warm glow of cultural belonging. Red, amber, green! I remember that. Not being alone in a room with a woman who isn't your wife. Yeah, sort of remember that. Being manly and taking charge of dates. Pretty sure I've heard that a lot of places. But the film borrows all of this I Kissed Dating Goodbye type stuff without actually thinking it through in a logical fashion. And that is Pureflix in a nutshell, really. Our hero will not be alone in a room with a woman he is not married to or related to, but he's perfectly happy to be alone in a car with her, or alone in the great outdoors with her, far away from other people? Pureflix movies are kind of like having Christian doctrine and culture explained to you by a bunch of 6-year-olds playing telephone. They play on this theme of old-fashioned romance by putting in a rule about this guy who won't be alone in a room with a woman he's not married to because they vaguely remember there was a book 10, 15, 20 years ago they might have read which had that in it, I think. But they don't actually understand the rule or the reason for it, it's just window dressing. Christian window dressing. But hey, that's hardly unusual in entertainment, right? You don't need logical plots or likable characters or interesting conflicts. You just need to signal your surface level understanding of the culture you're trying to attract. Because people are stupid, right? It would have been really easy for Jesus Bro to do the exact same thing, but for a different audience. It would have been easy to make it a shallow reference-heavy spoof which makes fun of the tropes without actually doing anything interesting with them. It would have been easy to make it a film which mocks Christians rather than the dumb movies that people sell to Christians, but it isn't, it doesn't. Or at least, not very much. So I'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about that.